The history of Ghana will not be complete without the mention of Kwame Nkrumah. He was the first president of Ghana and a leading figure in the African independence movement. Born in 1909 on the Gold Coast, Nkrumah rose to prominence as a charismatic leader with a vision for a free and united Africa. He led Ghana to independence and was a key player in the movement for African liberation. He also helped lay the foundation for the Organization of African Unity, dedicated to promoting African unity and cooperation. Nkrumah's ideas and leadership continued to inspire those working towards a more united and prosperous Africa. We have an interesting video today, and it's about Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana, one of the most celebrated leaders in Africa because of the role he played in history. Let's start with Nkrumah's early life and education. Francis Nwe Kofi Nganloma was born on September 21, 1909, in Krofel, a small village in the western region of the Gold Coast, now called Ghana. He later changed his name from Francis Nwe Kofi to Kwame Nkrumah in 1945 in the UK because his teacher couldn't pronounce his name. His father was a goldsmith and farmer, and his mother was a trader. Nkrumah received his early education in Catholic mission schools and went on to attend Achimota College in Accra. After completing his studies in Achimota, he worked as a teacher at a Roman Catholic primary school in Elmina and also as headmaster in the Axum School. In the mid-1930s, Nkrumah traveled to the United States to further his education. He studied at Lincoln University in Pennsylvania, where he earned a Bachelor of Science degree in Education and Philosophy. He went on to earn a Master of Science degree in Education from the University of Pennsylvania. During his time in the U.S., Nkrumah became politically active and involved in the Pan-African movement. Nkrumah's education and experiences in the U.S. shaped his political views and beliefs, and upon his return to the Gold Coast, he became a leading figure in the struggle for independence from British rule. His advocacy for independence and his commitment to improving the lives of people in Africa continue to inspire people to this day. From a young age, he was determined to fight for the rights and freedoms of his people. When he arrived in the United States to further his education, he was exposed to new ideas and movements that would shape the course of his life. Nkrumah was an activist student at Lincoln University, organizing a group of expatriate African students in Pennsylvania and building it into the African Students Association of America and Canada, becoming its president. Some members felt that the group should aspire for each colony to gain independence on its own. Nkrumah urged a Pan-African state. Nkrumah played a major role in the Pan-African Conference, held in New York in 1944, which urged the United States at the end of the Second World War to help ensure Africa became developed and free. His old teacher Kwame Nkrumah, who had introduced him to the ideas of Marcus Garvey and W.E.B. Du Bois, died in 1929 in the U.S. In 1942, Nkrumah led traditional prayers for Agri at the graveside. This led to a break between him and Lincoln. Nkrumah returned to London in May 1945 and enrolled at the London School of Economics as a PhD candidate in anthropology. He withdrew after one term and moved to University College of London, and then withdrew again and went to Gray's Inn to study law. Nevertheless, Nkrumah's doctoral thesis remained uncompleted. While in the UK, he spent his time on political organizing. He played a key role in the Fifth Pan-African Congress in Manchester in 1945, which elaborated a strategy for supplanting colonialism with African socialism. Among those who attended the Congress was the Venerable W.E.B. Du Bois, along with some who later took leading roles in leading their nations to independence, including Hastings Banda of Nyasaland, which became Malawi, Jomo Kenyatta of Kenya, and Obafemi Awolowo of Nigeria. Take a break here and like this video, share it with your friends and family, and subscribe to the New Tourist channel. Also, let us know what you think of Kwame Nkrumah and his fight for Africa's liberation in the comments below. Now let's look at Nkrumah's life after he returned to the Gold Coast. After the 1946 Gold Coast Constitution gave Africans a majority of the Legislative Council for the first time, the United Gold Coast Convention was founded in 1947 as the first true political party. The UGCC was led by busy professionals who needed to pay someone to run the party. So they chose Nkrumah, who hesitated but ended up by accepting because he saw the opportunity as a gateway for his political ambitions. In 1950, Governor Charles Arden Clark and the UGCC leaders were planning to draft a constitution to give Ghana self-government without including Nkrumah. Nkrumah organized a positive action campaign demanding a constituent assembly to write the constitution. However, Arden Clark wouldn't commit to this, resulting in a general strike in January 8, 1950. Nkrumah and the CPP leaders were arrested on the 22nd of January 1950 and sentenced to 3 years in Accra's Fort James prison. However, Nkrumah ran the CPP while in prison with the help of his assistant and by using notes on toilet paper. After the Constitution was drafted, Nkrumah insisted that the CPP contest for all seats for the upcoming elections. The CPP won 34 out of 38 seats, and Arden Clark was forced to free Nkrumah and asked him to form a government. As the leader of Convention People's Party, he inspired thousands of people with his vision of a free and independent Africa. His speeches and writings galvanized the people of the Gold Coast, and he became a symbol of hope and freedom to millions of people throughout the continent. Nkrumah's life as a leader of Ghana. Kwame Nkrumah became the first Prime Minister of Ghana on March 6, 1957, after the country gained independence from British rule. Before tens of thousands of his supporters, Nkrumah said, "Ghana will be freed forever." He spoke at the first session of the Ghana Parliament that Independence Day, saying, "We have a duty to prove to the world that Africans can conduct their own affairs with efficiency and tolerance, and through the exercise of democracy. We must set an example to all Africa." Nkrumah was hailed as the Osagifo, which means redeemer in the Akan language. As the leader of Ghana, Nkrumah set about implementing policies aimed at modernizing the country and improving the lives of its citizens. One of his first priorities was to build a strong and unified nation, and he worked tirelessly to promote national unity and reconciliation. He also sought to expand the country's infrastructure, building roads, schools, hospitals, and other public facilities to improve the quality of life for Ghanaians. Nkrumah was a firm believer in the importance of education, and he made it a priority to improve access to education for all Ghanaians. He established new schools and universities, and he encouraged students to study abroad in order to gain the skills and knowledge they needed to build a better future for their country. Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology in Kumasi, Ghana was even named after him. Nkrumah also focused on economic development. He sought to expand the country's industry and promote economic growth, and he implemented policies to encourage investment and job creation. Ghana made great strides under Nkrumah's leadership in terms of development and became a beacon of hope and progress in Africa. The administration of Nkrumah approved the indefinite detention of anyone who it deemed to be security concern in 1958. It became clear that Nkrumah would have an authoritarian kind of rule. Nkrumah's vision for Pan-Africanism. Nkrumah was a strong advocate for African unity and aimed to establish a federation of African states. Kwame Nkrumah had a vision for Africa that was bold and ambitious. He believed that the countries of Africa were stronger together than they were apart, and he dedicated his life to working towards a united and prosperous Africa. Nkrumah's ideas about Pan-Africanism were shaped by his experiences in the United States, where he was exposed to the works of Marcus Garvey and other African American leaders who advocated for the rights of African people around the world. Nkrumah was particularly inspired by Garvey's vision of a unified Africa, and he sought to build a similar movement in his own country. As the Gold Coast gained independence, Nkrumah set about implementing his vision of Pan-Africanism, working to build bridges between African countries and promoting cooperation and collaboration. One of Nkrumah's greatest achievements in this regard was the creation of the Organization of African Unity, which aimed to promote peace, stability, and economic development across the continent. Under Nkrumah's leadership, the organization became a powerful force for change in Africa, promoting cooperation and collaboration between African countries and working to address the many challenges facing the continent. Nkrumah's vision of Pan-Africanism was not just limited to Africa. He sought to promote the rights and freedoms of African people around the world. He was a firm believer in the importance of education, and he encouraged students from Africa and around the world to study in Ghana to gain the skills and knowledge they needed to build a better future for their country. Nkrumah focused his efforts on advocating for the political unification of Black Africa, losing sight of the situation in Ghana. A once prosperous nation became plagued by foreign debt as a result of the grandiose but frequently disastrous development projects in which his administration became involved. The second development plan of his government, established in 1959, had to be scrapped in 1961 after the balance of payments deficit reached more than $125 million. A general strike occurred in September 1961 as a result of massive labor unrest brought on by the economy's contraction. Since then, Nkrumah had developed a much stricter system of political control and had been more dependent on the communist nations. Now let's take a short break for you to like this video and subscribe to the New Tourist channel. Let us talk about Nkrumah's overthrow from power. Kwame Nkrumah was a divisive figure in the African community due to his dedication to Pan-Africanism and his advocacy for a united and independent Africa. The Western powers, who opposed his attempts to win independence for Ghana and unify the African continent, saw his political views as a threat. There were other occasions when Nkrumah's life was in jeopardy, besides the assassination attempt in 1962, which was allegedly an attempt of the CIA, as many believe. His home was the target of a bomb attack, among other attacks on his life. Despite these dangers, Nkrumah persisted in pursuing the independence and unification of Africa as part of his political agenda. In addition to obstacles from individuals who disagreed with his political ideas, Nkrumah also had difficulties within Ghana. Political groups challenged his leadership style and policies, and some charged him with escalating authoritarianism and stifling dissent. He even imprisoned those who opposed him. Kwame Nkrumah was a charismatic and visionary leader who transformed Ghana into one of the most developed countries in Africa, but his rule was eventually cut short when he was overthrown in a military coup in 1966. The coup was led by a group of military officers who were dissatisfied with Nkrumah's increasing authoritarianism and his growing reliance on the military to maintain control. Nkrumah had become increasingly unpopular among the people of Ghana, who were frustrated with his regime's economic mismanagement and widespread corruption. On February 24, 1966, while Nkrumah was abroad on a state visit to China, a group of military officers staged a coup.
In Ghana, that when a ruler is useless, you depose him. And therefore, we have deposed Kwame Nkrumah. We don't want tyranny or anything here. And therefore,
Nkrumah was quickly deposed and went into exile, ending his 9-year rule as the leader of Ghana. His friend Sékou Touré of Guinea offered him refuge and made him the honorary co-president of Guinea, where he spent the rest of his life. The coup was met with mixed reactions. Some saw it as a necessary step to restore democracy and end Nkrumah's increasingly autocratic rule, while others saw it as a tragedy for the country and a blow to the Pan-African movement. In the aftermath of the coup, Ghana experienced a period of instability as various military governments came to power and attempted to restore order to the country. Despite this, Nkrumah's legacy as a visionary leader and champion of development continues to inspire people to this day, and he is remembered as one of the great leaders of Ghana and Africa. On April 27, 1972, Kwame Nkrumah passed away in Bucharest, Romania. Although the precise cause for his death was unknown, it is generally accepted that he passed away from natural causes, possibly a heart attack. But when Nkrumah passed away, he was being treated in Romania for prostate cancer, which was later known as the cause of his death. Even Sékou Touré insisted that his friend Nkrumah had been assassinated. Following his passing, Nkrumah's remains were sent back to Ghana for a state funeral, which was attended by officials and dignitaries from other nations. His burial was a testament to the enormous esteem and admiration he had acquired throughout his life in Ghana and throughout Africa. His mortal remains and those of his wife Fathia Nkrumah are now housed in Kwame Nkrumah Memorial Park in Accra. An era in the history of Ghana and Africa came to an end with Nkrumah's passing. His ideas and vision for Africa's future continue to influence political and social developments today. He was one of the most charismatic and influential leaders of his time. Osagifo, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah was a visionary leader who played a significant role in the independence and development of Ghana and Africa. His ideas and actions inspired a generation of African leaders and continue to influence political and social developments on the continent today. Nkrumah's legacy is characterized by his contributions to the Pan-Africanist movement and his commitment to the unity and development of Africa. He was a strong advocate for African independence and a firm believer in the power of education to shape the future of the continent. Nkrumah's legacy continues to inspire future generations of leaders, and his ideas remain relevant to the ongoing struggle for African unity and development. Ghana's current president, Nana Akufo-Addo, has demonstrated a dedication to the ideals of Pan-Africanism and pushed to improve connections between African nations through programs like the African Continental Free Trade Area. We can also see his ideas and beliefs in PLO Lumumba of Kenya, who is constantly pushing the Pan-African agenda. Nkrumah will always be remembered as a giant of African history and a symbol of hope for the future of the continent. Some of his most inspiring quotes include, "The forces that unite us are intrinsic and greater than the superimposed influences that keep us apart." We hope you found this video about Nkrumah interesting and educational. What do you think of Nkrumah and Pan-Africanism? Let us know if you're from Ghana in the comments below. Also, like this video and subscribe to The New Tourist to join our community of touristers. Turn on notification to get alerts whenever we upload another video. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in our next video.